there, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Sherry.
And today we are going to show you how to make a beautiful fall lantern swag.
That's right. This is going to be such a fun project, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be using. We do have our lantern swag here, our lantern here, and this one is actually a 15-inch lantern, but you could use this any size that you wanted.
Yeah, and you can find these at TJ Maxx, Michael's,
Sure.
Target, so many great places.
Yes, even Walmart has some. And then we've just got various fall foliage and flowers that we're going to use, some fall leaves. We've got our wire cutters and some wire, and then we've also got some zip ties. And of course we've got our glue skillet that we're going to be using to glue some things in, and our bow dabra that we'll be using to make our bow.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of really pretty pumpkin picks.
Yes, aren't these pretty?
You can find those at Walmart,
Exactly.
Hobby Lobby, Michael's. And then we have our ribbon, which we are using 1.5-inch wired ribbon. I've got a plaid ribbon. This particular one came from Hobby Lobby. And then I also have just a solid orange 1.5-inch wired ribbon.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and get started making our bow. To make our bow, we're going to need our bow dabra bow maker, and of course our ribbon, and then we'll also need some floral wire. I'm using 26 gauge floral wire and some scissors. So for the first part, we're going to go ahead and cut our tails. Now I have my first tail cut. This is cut at 36 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my second tail. I'm just going to measure it against the first one. Now if you have a measuring mat and you want to use that, you definitely can. So I'm going to dovetail my ends. To do that, I just usually put them together just to save a little time. I fold them in half, and then I'm going to cut upwards just like that. Okay, and then I have my nice little dovetails. Alright, so I'm going to just set these aside for just a second. Now I want to put my wire into my bow dabra, and I just cut a really long piece of wire. I would say, I don't know, maybe 30 inches or so. I just like to have more than I actually need. I'd rather have too much than too little. So I fold it over, so I've got a loop on one end and I've got my two open ends. And I put it right down into the bow dabra just like that. And I tuck it under and then sit my bow dabra down on top of it. Now this is just going to be a traditional wreath bow, what we consider a traditional wreath bow. So I'm going to go ahead and put both of my tails in first. I start with my plaid, and now I just kind of move it around like that just to make sure it's even. And then I'm going to put in my orange. And again, I just move it around till I get it even. So I'm actually going to start with my plaid. And this ribbon's actually the same on both sides. So it's very simple to use. And I put it right down into my bow dabra just like that. And I leave about an inch or so over here on my left-hand side. And I just make a 6-inch loop. Now I use my thumb to my pinky, the end of my pinky, to do that, to figure out that it's 6 inches. If you don't feel comfortable just eyeballing it, you can measure it. You can use a measuring tape or a measuring mat. Either way is fine. And then I make my other loop. Okay, and I just pull it up like this to make sure that they're relatively even. Okay, now I'm going to add in my orange. I put it right down in my bow dabra just like that, and I make my loops. Now these are going to be the same size as the others, and since these are the same on both sides, these ribbons are the same print on both sides, so I don't have to twist or anything. It's very simple. So now I'm just going to make my next loop, and I just measure it against the one before it just like that, and make another loop. Now what I do, I pull up my next ribbon, make a loop, and then another loop. Okay, and I do it do it again, and I just repeat until I have as many loops as I want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I'm going to do one more orange, just like that. Okay, so this is going to be a 12 loop bow. So now I'm done with my loops, so I just cut off the extra ribbon. Okay, and I push it down, and now this is what it looks like, just like that in the bow dabber, but now we have to take it out of the bow dabber. So to do that, I put my fingers in the one loop, I keep my thumb on the ribbons, and then I pull up. Now I put the two ends right through the loop, just like that, and I pull really hard, back and forth, kind of wiggle it just a little bit to make sure that it's secure. And then I take my two ends and I split them open like that, and I pull around the back. Okay, and then I twist it 4 or 5 times just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And there is my bow before I fluff it. Okay, so I have my nice long tails, and then I have my loops, but now I need to fluff it. So to do that, I pull one loop one way and one another, just like that, all the way around the bow until I have all my loops just where I want them. Okay, and now we'll worry about our tails and all of this adjusting once we get it onto our lantern. So let's go ahead and attach it. Actually, before we place our bow on our lantern, we're going to go ahead and make our actual swag.
Yes, that's right. And what I'm using for my base of this swag is these beautiful pine leaves that they actually come in a stem from Hobby Lobby. And I loved this, so I said this is going to be just perfect for our lantern. So I have cut one piece off that, and I just left it long, and this was one of the other pieces, and it's short because we're going to actually attach it like this. So let me show you.
Yeah, and actually you really want to take your lantern that you're using, and you can actually measure it based on your lantern. Some lanterns are larger, some are smaller, but you want one piece that's going to be quite a bit longer than the other.
Exactly.
Okay, this one that we're using right here is it's right at 15 inches. Okay,
yes.
So you want it to go almost the length of the lantern for this longer piece.
Right, and you can use any kind of base like this that you find that you like. If you're doing a Christmas one, you could use any kind of Christmas pine in the exact same way. So we're going to first start with our piece here, and like she said, we've measured it, but we want it to fall very close like that. Well, when we put it together, it's going to go like this, and where my hand is where my bow is going to be. So we know that it's going to be like this, so I'm going to have to bend this just a little so that it goes down closer to the lantern, because I do want it to be closer in. So just bend it. That's one good thing about these, that they do bend very easily. So I want to go ahead and get that bent into place. So you see it like this. I have it bent. Okay, so I'm just going to start now layering some other elements that I want to use. Now I've got these pretty stems that actually came from Michael's, and they came in a bush, and I have cut them apart, and I wanted some of the grass in here, but the grass was all straight like this. So I just took my scissors, and make sure when you do this that you are very, very careful when you do it, and I wanted them to curl some of these pieces of grass. So you just put your finger right there like that. You open your scissors and put your thumb, and then you just run it just like if you were doing ribbon for a present or something, you would do the same way to curl your ribbon, just like that. And I've curled some of mine, and some of them I've left a little straighter. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is going to be my long piece, so I'm going to layer it next in my hand, just like this. And there again, I'm going to need to bend it down just a little bit so that it goes along the same way that my leaves are going. Now this one, I didn't want it to be as long as this one, so I actually cut this out of my grass. So I'm going to go ahead and put my grass in my hand just like this, and I'm just going to lay this on top. So there's where we are right now. So now I'm just going to layer my leaves, and I have some pretty fall leaves here, and I've cut one of my stems longer, so the longer side is going to go on my long side just like that, and these are shorter, so I'm going to put those in my hand. And you see I'm just layering one on top of another, just like I said, we're just layering. So next, I also wanted one of these by themselves to go on this other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and push that into my hand where I want it on this back side. This will be my front, and this is my back here. So I also wanted it to look good from the back, so I've got this one showing in the back. Now I've got my little purple flowers that I'm going to use, and this was just a bush that came like this, and it's from Michael's. And you'll see that the stems are shorter, but that does not matter. We can still put them where we want to. So I'm going to put this one in my hand just like this, and this one a little bit lower. And this one is going in my hand right there. And now I've got my pretty little picks. And these have so many pretty elements already. You've got your berries and your leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and put these. These are going to be very close to my bow. And I just put them in my hand just like this.
So now that we have all of our flowers and our greenery exactly where we want them, we're going to go ahead and zip tie everything together. Now this is going to be our front here with the pumpkins. That's the front of the swag, and then this back here is the back. So I'm just going to take my zip ties right around just like that, and I'm actually going to use 2 zip ties because I'm going to zip tie one just like that, really tight. And then I'm going to zip tie it again right over here on this side. Now I am leaving this space right in the middle open because that's where our bow is going to go.
Exactly.
And it does help to have a helper, but if not, you can definitely do this one-handed.
You surely
do it yourself,
can.
But it always is nice to have a helper.
Yes, it is. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the ends of my zip tie just like that, just to get those out of the way. And we're going to tie on our bow.
We're going to just tie our bow that
tie
we
it
made.
Right to the middle. Just twist it 2 or 3 times around the middle.
Okay, and you remember I said to keep your wire long, and there's a reason.
Because we're going to use this same wire that we wired our bow with. We are going to use it to wire on our swag. And so we're just going to take it and just use the wire and twist it around the back. So we've got it attached to our lantern. Now the one thing about 26 gauge wire is it is so thin that you can actually tie it in a knot if you wanted to, but I just twisted it around. So we've got it like we want it. I'm just going to pull these down, pull some things around, make sure that I've got my leaves showing, get everything just where you want it, just like that. Make sure my flower is showing. So I'm just gonna kind of move some things around and get things just how you want them. And then we can fluff our bow and add a few more little things to our bow. Now, we want this to look like one complete piece. So, what we're going to do is actually add some of our fern that we used here into our bow. And we're going to do that. I've cut some apart, but I actually think I'm going to cut it even shorter. So I'm just going to cut some pieces here and there, and then just use my glue skillet, and I'm just going to glue it into the ribbon. And you can do this, like I said, with any kind of greenery. If you don't want to use this, you can use anything that, any kind of greenery. And like I said, it would be great for a Christmas wreath used in pine, and you can just put that throughout. But you just want to kind of sprinkle it throughout your wreath. I mean your bow. I'm sorry, I said wreath. You can see I make a lot of wreaths, so that's what I'm thinking. You just want to sprinkle it throughout your bow. Just like that. I'm going to put a few more here on the back side because I want you to be able to see that pretty greenery all throughout the whole bow. And now some of it you may have to hold it for just a minute just to make sure it gets good and secure. You don't want it falling apart or anything like that. And then you can just take your tails and curl those, make those really pretty. Just curl them around. Look how pretty that is. And there we go.
So here is our finished lantern swag.
Isn't that pretty?
I really love the way this turned out. And this is so much fun because you can make it just as big or as small as you want. It's completely just up to your personal preference. We love big, so of course we've got our big pretty bow and all of our greenery. You can put as much through the bow as you want or as little again. You can put a candle in your lantern swag so you still see, even though it has this big beautiful bow and all this pretty greenery and all these floral elements, you can still see the lantern.
Or what would be pretty inside is even some pumpkins.
You could put pumpkins inside.
Yes.
You could put a pretty candle of some sort, some little fairy lights in there. Anything like that would be so pretty.
Yes.
But I love this. This is perfect for fall. And it's just a fun little lantern DIY.
Yes, and once y'all go and make one, make sure to let us see it. We would love to see what you come up with.
That's right. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial.